Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe the universe isn't just, stuff floating around,
Hmm.
but something more intricate, maybe even intelligent, like a huge, purposeful machine?
That's a wild thought, isn't it?
It really is. And today we're diving into some fascinating sources you've brought to us, sources that suggest exactly that kind of, well, mind-bending idea.
That's right. We're going to try and unpack this uh, really comprehensive framework.
Mm-hmm.
It looks at the whole cosmos using a computational metaphor.
A computational metaphor, okay.
Yeah, the idea that the universe works like a dynamic, connected system, sort of like a computer, but, cosmic scale.
Yeah.
It pulls together concepts like hypersymmetry, hypergravity, coherence. It's quite a picture.
Sounds like it challenges a lot of standard thinking.
Oh, definitely. It presents a very unified, almost holistic view of how everything might function.
Okay, so let's build this cosmic computer from the ground up. Every computer needs an operating system. The sources talk about something called the hypergravity coherent aether. Is that the OS here?
That's the idea, yes. But it's not just a passive background, like Windows just sitting there.
Right.
Think of it more like a dynamic, coherent medium, a universal fabric, maybe. It actively facilitates all the interactions.
How does it do that?
Well, it's described as coupling with quantum fields. It's basically the foundation for, well, everything we see. Mass, inertia, the structure of space-time itself. It sort of bridges the quantum world and the classical world we experience.
So it's the underlying environment, making sure things are stable.
Exactly. And its structure is key. The sources mention fractal and hyperfractal layers. That structure is what ensures space-time has consistent properties. It keeps the rules of physics, consistent everywhere.
And what really jumped out at me here is that this isn't static, it's active, maybe even malleable. The sources hint that understanding this aether, this OS, could be key to, well, bending space-time.
Right, like for warp drives or maybe even accessing quantum energy. If you understand the operating system, you might be able to find the back doors or the advanced settings, so to speak.
Fascinating. Okay, so we have the OS. What's next in this computer analogy?
Next up is the source code. The sources call this the Akashic Intelliformation Field.
Akashic field. Okay, like the Akashic records idea, but maybe more fundamental.
Sort of, but framed scientifically here. If the ether is the OS, this Akasha field is the actual code. It's the informational substrate. It encodes all the basic principles, the instructions, the logic for physical laws, constants, everything.
The blueprint.
The ultimate blueprint, exactly, governing how the universe is structured and how it evolves.
And it's not just random data, right? You mentioned negentropic information flow. What does that mean again? Because usually we hear about entropy, things tending towards disorder.
Right. Negentropy is the opposite. It means this field inherently pushes towards increasing complexity and order. It's actively working against that tendency towards disorder that we see in classical thermodynamics.
Wow. Okay, so the universe has a built-in drive towards complexity.
According to this framework, yes. And this field isn't simple. It holds multidimensional information. It even encodes things like fractal time and different types of time. They mentioned primary time, T1, cyclic time, T2, and quantum time, T3.
Different time axes, T1, T2, T3. Can you break those down a bit?
Sure. T1, primary time, is basically time as we know it. Linear, forward progression, tick-tock.
Okay, simple enough.
T2, cyclic time, refers to cycles and patterns. Think planetary orbits, seasons, maybe even vast cosmic cycles, things that repeat.
Got it, rhythms.
Exactly. And T3, quantum time, is more abstract. It suggests a more fluid, maybe nonlinear aspect of time, where things can connect instantly, non-locally, like in quantum entanglement. It's less about sequence, more about connection.
Okay, that's a lot to chew on. And this Akasha field, the source code, it's linked to intelligence, consciousness.
That's where it gets really profound. The sources propose this field as the source of universal intelligence potential. And they even suggest photons, light particles, act as carriers of pure intelligence within this field.
Pure intelligence, carried by photons. What does that even imply for reality? For our own minds?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If information and intelligence are that fundamental.
Yeah. Okay, so if we have this incredible source code, the Akasha field, there must be something running the code, or maybe directing it. The framework calls this the programmer, or orchestrating operator. What's that?
Right. And it's important to clarify, this isn't necessarily pictured as a person or a deity in the traditional sense.
Okay.
It's more like a universal intelligence or a guiding principle. It's the thing that shapes and directs the information flow from the Akasha field. It actively orchestrates that negentropic order we talked about.
How does it orchestrate?
through dynamic adjustments, feedback loops. It ensures that structures emerge according to these deep hypersymmetric principles. It's even suggested it influences things like how fast the universe expands or the strength of gravity and other forces. It takes the raw potential and sculpts it.
So the big takeaway here is purpose, not randomness.
That seems to be the implication. A universe that's guided, purposeful, constantly refining itself towards greater order and coherence. The sources do link this to ideas of universal consciousness, even suggesting a sort of divine aspect isn't separate from physics, but embedded within it.
A universe with intention baked into its laws. That's a powerful idea.
It is. So, moving on with our metaphor. We have the source code, Akasha Field, and the guiding principle, programmer. Now we need something to translate that code into action. That's the compiler, represented by the master hypersymmetry equation.
The compiler. Okay, so it translates the raw data.
Exactly. It takes the information from the Akasha Field and transforms it into the structured outputs we can actually observe: forces, particles, physical constants. It makes sure everything stays coherent and symmetrical across different dimensions. It's like translating high-level code into machine language the universe can run.
And this hypersymmetry is key. What does that mean conceptually? Because the sources say this equation has to explain both how symmetries break to give us different forces, but also how an underlying coherence is maintained.
Think of hypersymmetry as like the ultimate perfect symmetry that exists at the deepest level. A grand pattern that includes all the symmetries we know, like those in particle physics, but goes beyond them.
So a symmetry of symmetries.
Kind of, yeah. It's the unbroken state. Then, the master equation describes how this perfect hypersymmetry breaks in specific ways to give rise to the distinct forces and particles we see, like electromagnetism, gravity, etc. But it does so while preserving an overall coherence.
And this equation involves things like gauge groups, field tensors, a coherence field. Sounds complex.
Oh, it's definitely described as mathematically intricate. It involves a coherence field, symbolized as ESCI, which sort of modulates interactions, potentials that cause the symmetry breaking, and how hypergravity interacts with the other force fields.
But the payoff is potentially huge, right? A mathematical path to unifying all forces.
That's the implication, that all forces emerge from this deeper, unified, hypersymmetric structure, as described by this master equation. It's a candidate for a theory of everything, framed within this computational context.
Okay, so the code is compiled. What actually runs it? What's the processor?
That would be the processor, which the sources call the hyperfractal manifold. This is the actual execution mechanism of the universe.
Hyperfractal manifold. So it's fractal, meaning self-similar patterns.
Yes, operating across nested, self-similar layers. It takes the compiled information and actively manifests the forces and constants within space-time. It's not just a stage, it's a dynamic sister itself, embodying the fractal nature of space and even time.
Extending into higher dimensions, too.
Right, into hyperdimensions. It actively executes the program, ensuring coherence across all scales, from the quantum to the cosmic.
And it manages those different time axes we talked about, T1, T2, T3, and fractal space.
Yes, it handles that complex temporal stuff. It's processing information in ways that account for linear time, cyclical time, and that quantum nonlinear time, all potentially simultaneously across fractal spatial dimensions.
So if we can understand this, the implications could be huge. You mentioned fractal computing.
It's exactly. Or stabilizing quantum coherence, which is a huge challenge for quantum computers. And maybe even, again, manipulating space-time for things like warp drives. If this is the engine of reality, learning how it works is, well, the ultimate goal.
It sounds like the core processing unit. Okay, computers need memory. Does the universe have memory in this model?
It does. These are called resonance structures. They function as the universe's memory storage.
Resonance structures, like specific points or areas.
They're described as dynamic nodes within that hyperfractal manifold.
Mm-hmm.
They store and maintain the coherent properties of things, forces, particles, constants over time and across dimensions.
So they make sure the speed of light today is the same as it was yesterday. And everywhere.
Essentially, yes. They preserve those universal constants, and they act as temporal anchors, particularly connecting across T1, linear time, and T3, quantum time, ensuring history stays consistent in a way.
Okay, maintaining consistency. But you mentioned something else intriguing, a link to consciousness.
Yes, this is fascinating. The sources suggest these resonance structures have a deep tie to consciousness, that maybe memory, perhaps even awareness, isn't just localized in brains like ours.
But distributed throughout the universe in these nodes.
Potentially distributed, yes. and maybe even accessible through some kind of resonant alignment. It's a very non-local view of memory and consciousness.
Wow. Okay. So we have all this incredibly complex, high-dimensional processing and memory storage happening. How do we end up experiencing our familiar 3D world and linear time?
Good question. That's the role of the input-output interface, which is described as dimensional reduction.
Dimensional reduction, like compressing the data.
Exactly like that. It acts as the gateway or maybe a filter. It translates all that high-dimensional information and the forces operating in the hyperfractal manifold down into the lower dimensional phenomena we actually perceive in our everyday reality.
But it has to do this without losing the important stuff, right? The underlying coherence and symmetry.
Precisely. It ensures that even as the complexity gets reduced for our perception, the fundamental rules and coherence are preserved. It explains how forces like gravity and electromagnetism, which might originate in higher dimensions, manifest in our 3D space, and how constants stay constant for us.
So it manages the transition from the quantum weirdness to our classical world and squashes those extra time dimensions, T2, T3, into the single timeline we feel.
That's the idea. It's the grand translator between the universe's full complexity and our limited but consistent human experience, a crucial interface.
Okay, but what if something goes wrong? Does this cosmic computer crash? Get errors?
Well, the framework accounts for that with an error correction mechanism. They call it coherent stabilization.
Ah, like error correction codes in our computers.
Very much like that, but on a cosmic scale. It's the universe's built-in self-correcting system. It ensures stability and coherence across all those fractal layers and dimensions.
How does it work?
It's constantly dynamically monitoring for any deviations, any glitches in symmetry or coherence. If it finds one, it actively corrects it, preventing things from falling apart, preventing decoherence. It keeps the universe evolving along that nigentropic path.
Using those feedback loops again.
Yes, operating through nigentropic feedback loops. It realigns forces, fields, keeps constant stable. It works at both the quantum and classical levels.
And the practical side of this could be huge.
Immense. Imagine understanding this process. It could offer insights for creating truly error-free quantum computers, stabilizing complex energy systems, or developing communication systems with unbelievable reliability. It's cosmic quality control.
Okay, we've built quite the system here. OS code, programmer, compiler, processor, memory, I/O, error correction. What's the final piece? Where do we fit in?
We are the user interface. Or rather, our perception and observation acts as the user interface.
The user interface. So reality is presented to us.
Yes. But it's not just a passive display. This is crucial. The framework highlights that our perception, our observation, isn't just receiving information. It actively shapes the reality we experience.
The observer effect, but maybe even deeper.
Potentially much deeper. Influencing quantum fields, maybe even how forces manifest. It's the process that translates the universe's incredibly complex, multidimensional structure into our perception of 3D space and linear time.
So we're not just watching the movie, we're kind of in it, co-creating it.
That's a great way to put it. We play a co-creative role in forming reality. Our consciousness isn't just a result of the universe, it's an active participant in the universe.
Which has big implications for things like VR or understanding quantum measurements.
Absolutely. It reframes the whole observer-reality relationship.
So putting it all together now, all these parts, OS, code, programmer, compiler, processor, memory, I/O, error correction, user interface, they don't exist in isolation, right?
Not at all. The sources emphasize the universal interaction framework. Everything is deeply interconnected. It's one dynamic, coherent system.
How does it all connect?
Through seamless flows of forces, information, and coherence. There are constant feedback loops running throughout the system, ensuring stability, enabling that continuous self-correction, and driving the overall nigentropic evolution of the cosmos.
A self-organizing, self-correcting, evolving, computational universe.
Exactly. The sources even gesture towards a general equation, trying to conceptually capture how quantum fields, coherent states, and this hyperdimensional processing are all woven together.
And thinking about this whole unified picture, it opens doors.
Potentially revolutionary ones. Unified quantum systems that leverage this coherence, advanced ways to stabilize energy, maybe even practical space-time manipulation. If the universe truly operates this way, understanding the system is key to unlocking its potential.
Wow. We've really gone deep today, this framework. It's incredibly ambitious, reimagining the universe, not just as, particles and forces, but as this living, evolving computation.
It really is. Yeah. From the operating system, the hypergravity aether, to the Akasha source code, the programmer guiding it, the compiler, processor, memory, all the way to us, the user interface. It offers this remarkably cohesive, almost intelligent view of existence.
And the core idea that reality might be this intelligently orchestrated computation, constantly correcting itself, evolving towards more order, that hits hard against a lot of assumptions, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It challenges the idea of a purely random, purposeless cosmos.
So, the thought to leave everyone with, if reality is this kind of living program, constantly learning, evolving, and we, as observers, are part of its interface, actively participating, what does that truly mean for our place in it all?
It's a question that reframes everything, doesn't it? Our potential, our connection to the universe, the nature of consciousness itself.
Definitely something to mull over. This deep dive is really just scratching the surface, I
Oh,
think.
for sure. Hopefully, exploring these ideas from the sources has sparked some new questions, maybe new ways of looking at the universe for you listening.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and keep diving deep.